I just can't win today. Alright everyone, welcome back to After Evenfall, a channel all about inspiring you to embark on adventures from home. My name is Bailey, and today we are going to see how many games I can get through from my top 100 list. I previously have been doing segments that are about 10 games per little segment of this top 100 list, but I have skipped the last few weeks because we had a family medical emergency. My baby was in the hospital for about a week, and then we've just had family, and it's been a little bit chaotic here at my house ever since, but the baby is better now. It's been a few weeks of recovery, and yeah, but at the same time, you'll probably notice that my table is a mess. That's because I am mid-projects right now, and I've got the rest of my projects, like, across the room all jammed. Like, my whole room is just kind of a mess right now, and so this is where I have to store all my stuff. So, forgive me, because it'll be in the video the entire time. I've got, like, my cutting board, my cutting mats and stuff for fabric, but that's just going to be the way the video is. Now, my baby is asleep right now, so we are going to try to see how many of these games we can make it through. My goal is to get at least to game number 11 on my list. So that would put me from 60 through to game 11. And I am going to I'm going to put my glasses on. We're going to start to go through it. Also, this is going to be a little rapid fire because we're trying to get through as many games as possible today. And so I'm not going to be quite as in-depth as I normally am. You can kind of look toward my Board Game Bite segments if you want more in-depth reviews, or there are plenty of other creators on YouTube that have fantastic reviews or overviews of these games. Foster the Meeple is one of them. They are great. We love their channel. There's also Jenna at the Board Game Garden has quite a few of them. The Brothers Murph, Table Knots. So just if you guys are looking for recommendations on other people whose channels you can watch, Kavre is another one. If you're looking on how to play rules, Rodney Smith is always a good resource. Anyway, so we're going to go through these games today, and we're going to start with number 60. So my number 60 game is a tile laying game, and this is Overboss. Now in Overboss, you'll be drafting these tiles and placing them out on a grid in front of you to try to score the most amount of points. There will be scoring conditions based off of the building or the area that the tile that you lay down, and then the little guy that's on the tile. There's a monster, and some of the monsters will say, like, you need X amount in a certain row or X amount in a column, or they need to not be adjacent to other things. There are special requirements for each monster and for each building in placement, so you have to be strategic about where you're putting them, and that is Overboss. So my next game is a game called Paint the Roses. Now, in Paint the Roses, it's a co-op deduction game where you are drafting these cards, and then you have these tiles that are on the board in front of you that you can pick up and put down on the central garden board. And the other player is trying to guess what combination you have on the card in front of you. They're easy, medium, and hard cards, so one of the cards will be like, there will be 2 red flowers on a card adjacent to each other. So you will take a flower tile from the board, and you'll place it out, or from the drafting pool, and then you'll place it out on the board in front of you next to other little topiaries, and then you'll put cubes on the other topiaries to indicate how many times you've achieved your goal of having 2 red flowers next to each other, and then the other person looks at those cubes out on the board and has to guess what's on your card. You want the other player to guess on your card. It's very punishing game because there's this timer of the queen running around the board trying to, chop off your head, and you have to try to outpace her, and she's really quick, so it's really hard to win this game, and I think I've only won it once in all the times that we played it. It's very brutal, but we love it, and that is Paint the Roses. So my next game is Ticket to Ride meets Parks. I think reviewed this in an earlier Board Game Bite segment, and this game is Skull Canyon. So like I said, it's Ticket to Ride meets the game Parks. There is the Ticket to Ride-esque section where you are skiing down the mountain and you are collecting cards or gear, and you're trying to make the most of your day. And then below it at the bottom, after you're done with your day of skiing, all of the skiers go to the bottom lodge, and they will progress left to right, last player first, until everyone has selected their stuff to set up for their next day of skiing. Stuff like extra lift tickets or gear or things like that. So that is kind of the gist of Soul Canyon. There's also like an abominable snowman that you can put on spaces to block other people from being able to ski down the run that they were intending to ski down. And that is Skull Canyon. So the next game number 57, is Mythic Mischief. Now this is a chess-like game where you are trying to collect tomes. Oh, also you're an asymmetric faction. So there are tomes out on this board and bookshelves that act as a maze to collect these tomes. There's also a tome keeper on the board who is trying to catch you and your team. You're playing against your opponent, but there's also the tome keeper. And the tome keeper is the way that you can mess your opponent over. So on your turn, you will move around the board, and then you'll have the opportunity to move bookshelves occasionally, or you'll be able to move the other player into the path of the tome keeper, and then the tome keeper moves and takes them off the board. It's a very mean, very punishing game, very chess-like, and it's very entertaining, and that is Mythic Mischief. So my next game number 56, is a game called Chronicles of Crime. Now, if you like crime shows, I would say that this is very much the game for you. It plays almost exactly like a crime show plays out, like something like Law and Order, or we really love Psych. That's kind of my guilty pleasure. Actually, it's not a guilty pleasure because I think everyone loves it, but we love Psych. So if you've ever seen those shows and there's a lot of like detective interviewing in those shows, Chronicles of Crime is just like that, where it's an app-driven game. You get the board game, you set it all out, and there are different characters that you'll encounter as you're story-driven through this game, and also different locations, different scenarios. And what's cool is you can take the app and like look around to see clues in an area. Like if you have a crime scene, for instance, you can look around, kind of like a VR, but just your phone, look around to try to make note of what's wrong in the room or what clues might lead you to a new person. It is real time, so that makes it kind of extra difficult. We have played through a few scenarios, and I really enjoy it, and that is Chronicles of Crime. So my next game is a game called Mythwind. Now this game is a cozy campaign style game where you're building out a kind of a village. You can do that. There's also there's a bunch of different characters because it's asymmetric. There is like the farmer or the ranger or the crafter, I want to say. Yeah, etc. There's a lot of characters, and they're coming out with more as I speak. I know that they're planning on running a Kickstarter soon for it. And so Mythwind, it's very cozy. It's not very light though. Like, it's pretty intense. Me, my mom, and my husband tried to play it all together a few times, and I always play the farmer because I like the farmer. Farmer's the easiest character. My husband and my mom struggle with it a little bit more. Their characters were more complicated, but I enjoy the game a lot, and that is Mythwind. So number 54 on my list is a game called Acquire. Now, this is a stock game, like stocks. I don't know what this is. But this is a stock game where there is a grid out in front of you and you are drafting tiles and playing them out onto the grid. Now, I have the newer edition of this, but my mom has the older edition, and we've only ever played the older edition. So while I'm talking about this, you just need to know that there are a lot of components that are in the newer game that they don't have in the older game. So anyway, as I describe it, I'm just going to describe the older game, the older version. So you'll be drafting these tiles out of a drafting pool, and you'll be placing them out on the board. After you have two tiles next to each other, you can put a hotel down on top of the tiles, and that indicates that chain of hotel. And then you will also have the opportunity to buy stocks throughout the game for that hotel in particular. But the catch is that sometimes hotels will have tiles that end up touching each other, and when that happens, you have to merge the hotels or like consume. Anyway, one hotel basically consumes the other hotel, and there becomes like a bigger hotel for one of them. Well, that being said, if you're stuck with the hotel stocks from the hotel that is no longer in operation, you're kind of messed over. There's a lot of really fun little elements to the game as well. We really enjoy it, and it's one that I grew up on. I've had it for a very, very, very long time. It's a very old game, and that is Acquire. So my next game is an engine building game, and this is Cubitos, engine building race game. So in Cubitos, you are rolling die to move your guy along the track. And when you do that, you also have the opportunity to buy new dice throughout the game. And they're all like on the side of the track. And those dice do specific things. So, and you add them to your die pool, and then when you roll, you have more options available in front of you to try to basically win the game, and that is Cubitos. All right, game number 52 is Downforce. Now, Downforce often gets misrepresented. A lot of people think that it's a racing game, and while there is some racing element to it, it's not really a racing game. I would say the foundation of this game is it's a betting game. A lot of people also get this mixed up with Heat. Heat is a pure racing game. This is not. So you are assigned a car at the beginning of this game, but actually you're assigned a few different drivers. If I remember right, when we've played, we've always had like 2 or 3. You bid on what drivers you want. And then you'll have 3 different phases throughout the race where you'll be allowed to bet on the cars. And you don't have to bet on yours. You can bet on someone else's car. And then you'll play cards that allow you to move around the board. But it is primarily a betting game. And then at the end, once they've totaled, I mean, it does benefit you a little bit to have your car in first, second, or third, or have in place. But it's not significant. Your main source of money is going to be from betting, and then whoever ends the game with the most money wins the game, not whoever crosses the finish line first. So that's something to keep in mind, and that is Downforce. Now my next game is Aquatica, and I recently played a game of this with Jeff from Foster the Meeple online, and man, I thought I knew this game better than I did. I sucked, and I felt like BGA was not letting me, it was like not letting me select my locations when I was fully capable of taking them. Anyway, that's aside the point. It's in beta testing right now, so it's not even like really officially on BGA. It's just a beta game. So they're still working on production and bugs and stuff. But that being said, it was a really fun game, and I have played quite a few games of Aquatica here at home, and it's always fun. It's an engine building game. It also has a side of deck building, so you're going to be using your deck in your hand to try to buy these location cards that go down into your engine. It has this fun mechanism of being able to slide the cards up once you've added them to your engine. And then they kind of do this combo-y thing where this unlocks this, unlocks this, unlocks this. And you're trying to be the person who ends up with the most points. Once you're done with the cards, they've all risen to the top. You then retire them. And then, yeah, that's pretty much the gist of the game. There's a lot more in depth, of course. And I'm probably not the person to, like, ask about how to play the game because apparently I'm garbage at it. But I still love it, and that is Aquatica. And I did, in fact, get slaughtered. If anyone was wondering, Jeff beat me by, like, a long mile. So there's that. Now, my next game, number 50, is a game called Meadow. Now, Meadow is a tableau building game where you have little tiles that you can put on either end of a board to indicate what card you're going to take. And then you take that card and you add it to your tableau. There's also, like, a little campfire section. But your primary gameplay is going to be from drafting those cards, adding them to your tableau. There are like scenes or animals, and it's a beautiful game. It's very easy to learn, which I love, and I would say it's a really good lullaby game. We haven't had a game that's really mean of it. I mean, you can draft other people's cards, and that can get kind of mean, but really, you're just trying to do your own thing, and so that is Meadow. Now, my next game number 49. This is a game that I just mentioned earlier, and it is Parks. Now, in Parks, this game is really, really, really dang similar to Takedo, and you guys have to tell me if I should make a video of this or not, because I've come across a lot of games in the last few years where they have different themes, but the gameplay itself is really, really similar to the point where you could almost have one or the other game. I've kind of thought about doing an either-or segment, but you'll have to tell me if that's something you're interested in. In the meantime, Parks is really similar to Takedo, which I reviewed in an earlier video, and the basic idea of it is that your character moves from left to right across a little, like, timeline strip with with the main factor being whoever's in last place moves next. So if a bunch of people move, if you got 4 people across the board, whoever's in the last position will move next, and if they still haven't, like, met up with someone, they will move again. Anyway, that's basically the premise of the game, and you can't take the same space as another person unless, I think you have a campfire, maybe I'm remembering that wrong. In the game, you are trying to collect resources that allow you to buy parks. The parks are worth certain points. You can also buy gear, and the gear will allow you to be more efficient on your turn. And then there's also, you can take pictures for extra points, and you're just trying to get the most points from buying the most parks, and that is Parks. Now, the next game I have, 48, just making sure I didn't skip any, is a game called Three Ring Circus by DeVere. And this game sort of has two things going on. It's mainly like a tableau building game. I know I've heard some people say it's an engine builder. It's really not. It's more about your tableau building. And then there's also like a section which is on the main board that everyone collectively has that is a movement section where you're moving a train car along the map. You're basically trying to make the best circus, and in doing that, you're collecting these acts that go onto your personal board. They're the cards, and you will move along to different cities and different towns to put on the best show with all the acts that you have, and you're trying to fit certain qualifications. And that is Three Ring Circus. So number 47 is a game called Star Wars: The Deck Building Game, which, yes, it is in fact a deck building game. So in Star Wars: The Deck Building Game, one reason that I like this more than, say, other deck builders, for instance, I really enjoy Star Realms, but my preference is to play Star Wars: The Deck Building Game, and that mainly comes down to the actual structure of the drafting pool. So you have your cards that are stacked right over here, and then all the cards are laid out in a line that you can draft from. And you'll have your deck in your hand that you can, play down, kind of similar to Star Realms where you can buy cards or not. But some of the cards will be facing you, and some of the cards will be facing your opponent. And one person will be playing as the Rebels, and the other person will be playing as the Empire. Now, there's another addition to that game. I haven't played it, so I'm just going to talk about this one. And when you are playing, say I'm the Rebel and the other person is the Empire, you will take your turn. Oh, sorry, not you will take your turn. What am I trying to say? The cards that are laid out in front of you, the ones that are facing you, are cards that you can purchase that would help build up your hand. But the cards that are facing them, even though that means the same thing to them, or the cards represent the same thing for them, there's also an ability on that card for you to beat it before they can draft it. So you can basically take out cards before they can even pick them up and put them in their hand. And you can try to beat out the best cards. And then there's a little cube on the side that keeps track of whether the Rebel or the Empire's winning. And it's such a fun game. I love the structure of deck building because it takes Star Realms and it moves it up a notch. And that is Star Wars: The Deck Building Game. All right, so my next game, this one's kind of hard for me to describe. Honestly, I was like writing up the script for this and I wasn't quite sure how to explain it because there's a lot going on. And that is Scythe. Now, I know a lot of people are familiar with Scythe. A lot of people know what it is. This is a really heavy-hitting game. It's really hard to teach new people, but once they get into it, it's really fun. It's just that first preliminary game is kind of difficult to get a grasp on everything that you're supposed to be doing with. There's engine building, there's resource management, there's area control, there's worker placement. So it's kind of like a mishmash of all of the mechanics, but it's done really, really well. I've played some other games where the mishmash kind of feels clunky. Scythe, I like the way they do it. There's a map to move an attack on. There's your own little engine down here in front of you. Overall, it's a super fun game. I've noticed that I've enjoyed it more. It's definitely more masculine. I'm not saying women can't like it, because women definitely can, because I like it, and I'm a woman. Anyway, a woman. It's always weird. Anyway, but it definitely skews more masculine, and I kind of think that's fun, but that's just me. Anyway, that's Scythe. Now, my next game number 45, is Seven Wonders Duel. Now, in Seven Wonders Duel, it is arguably better than the original, with me leaning on it is better than the original. I like Seven Wonders. I really like Seven Wonders Duel. And in this game, you'll be buying cards to build your civilization over the course of 3 eras. And the cards will be... Sorry, that was the sound of my seat. And as the cards will be displayed in a different formation every time, and you won't be able to see all the cards at once. You have to draft one in order to unlock the cards above it. And you'll be taking the cards to either advance your science, or add resources to the pile that you have so that you can buy cards at a cheaper price. Or you could technically attack the other player. It's kind of hard to It's not like you're attacking them and taking their cards from them. There's a little meter at the top, similar to Star Wars: The Deck Building Game, with a little piece in the middle, and you can move it toward the person or toward you, depending on if you are playing attack cards. And that's kind of the basis for Seven Wonders. You're trying to just beat the opponent, get more points, and yep, that's Seven Wonders Duel. So my next game number 44, is a game that's actually very new to me, and I was sent this game by Lucky Duck Games, and this one is so fun, obviously, because it's on 44 on my list, and that is the game Tariki. So, of all the campaign games I've played up to now, I'd have to say Tariki's probably my favorite. Not because it's definitely not the most complicated. It's not complicated at all. I love that it's entry-level campaign. So, like, if you're just getting into them and you want something to transition you into campaign games, I think Tariki is an excellent start because it's campaign, but it's only 6 to 8 hours tops. You can pause and save the game, too, just for the record, so you don't have to do that all in one sitting. I love the storyline. It makes it feel kind of like a video game, and you're stranded on a desert island, and you're trying to figure out how to get off the island while you're also like trying to discover new species of plant and animal. And you can gather resources from the island to help you build like shelter, or to help you build nets, or to help you attract animals that you can then farm. And it's so fun. Like, I was really, really surprised by this one. It's probably been one of my favorite campaign games, if I didn't say that already, just because it's so easy to just step into it. It is app-driven. I forgot to mention that. I played this with my husband, and I played it once through with my 7-year-old and my 6-year-old, and we had such a fun time. It's great for a family weight campaign game, and then we liked it so much that I actually let my mom borrow it, and she's taking it down to so she's played it now, and she's taking it to my sister-in-law. So it's bouncing all around the family. Not my sister-in-law, my sister and my brother-in-law. So it's bouncing all around the family. We've all had fun with it, and that is Tariki. Also, Lucky Duck Games. I want more of this game, like, so badly. If you guys could, like, make a whole line, I promise you I will buy every single one, because we love this. It's great for family night. It's great for, like, family board game night. It's great. I want all of them. I want like 10 more versions of Tariki that I can play, because once you've played it through once, it's hard to play it through again. Yeah. Anyway, I would buy 5 million of them. That's Tariki. Now, my next game, this is another one that's kind of hard to explain, and this is Ark Nova. It's a very intense zoo building game where you are adding enclosures to your zoo in front of you, and then putting animals in those enclosures. You're adding concession stands. I built like 3D printed stuff for it, so that's always really fun. You can support like conservation programs. There's a lot going on in the game, and honestly, I love it, but it's so hard to keep track of your points, in my opinion. There are very few games that I feel this way about, but I would rather play this on BGA that I would play this in person, just because BGA keeps track of the points for me. I've played I feel like so many games of Ark Nova now, and I still have no idea how the scoring works, really. But it's really fun, so there's that. Anyway, so that's Ark Nova. Yeah, I definitely, and I love that on BGA, you don't have to set up either, because it can be kind of a beast to set up for your first time, or if, like, your first few times, it doesn't come naturally. I don't know. There's some games that I just know how to set up, and Ark Nova is not one of them. I have to read the rules every time, and it takes me forever. So that is Ark Nova. But I do love it. All right, my next game number 42, is Photosynthesis. Now, Photosynthesis is a very thematic game where you are growing trees and then culling them to score points. And there's this light that's going around the board, like the sun is going around the board in kind of seasons. And you get points from the sun depending on if it touches your trees and how tall your tree is. And then you use those points to grow your trees more. And then once they've grown tall enough, you have the opportunity to cull them. And when you do that, they get points according to what base they're on. And the closer they are to the middle of the board, the higher the points that they get, because it's harder to grow them. Or they just don't get as many points because there are more trees surrounding them. And then the further you get to the edges of the board, those trees are worth less points. It's a super fun game. We played this with my in-laws a lot, and they really enjoy it, and that is Photosynthesis. So game number 41 is one that I have been reintroduced to recently. We played it a lot when I was growing up, and then there was like a decade-long period where we didn't play it, and then I just got sent the special edition copy of this game, and I'm so psyched about it. We played it a few times, and it's been so fun. I like it more than other people do, but I really like it, and that is Puerto Rico. It's a super fun game where it's like a classic. My mom actually had the original edition of this game, which we call a name that I probably shouldn't say on here. Anyway, we call it a name because it's a special edition before they did all of this re-envisioning of the game. I don't know. You can look that up. This special edition of it is fantastic, by the way. I love like the pieces that come with it. Like the ships, actually having your items ship on the ship is so cool and so nice. And I love the structures in the buildings. I just want to see more of them. So in this game, you are growing out like your farm on Puerto Rico, and then you're also building out your city as well. And you will be doing that it's like a role selection game, an action selection game, where you will pick a certain role at the beginning of the game that allows you to, or at the beginning of a round that allows you to take certain turns. For instance, the mayor allows you to take extra workers that you can place out onto your farm, or the builder allows you to take the turn to spend money on building buildings. There's also a captain that allows you to ship goods and earn points from that. And overall, super fun game. I really enjoy Puerto Rico. And yep, then at the end of the game, you'll tally up like your points on your buildings, your points for that you've gotten from shipping goods, and so on and so forth. And that is Puerto Rico. So my next game, number 40, is a game called Clank. And I'm sure this is one that everyone has heard of at this point, probably ad nauseum. But this is a deck building game with an adjacent board that you are discovering a dungeon on. So you'll go through the castle and down into the dungeon, and you're trying to like steal the most treasure from down there, but there's also a dragon, and if you wake up the dragon, then he could take you, and then you wouldn't be able to escape, and you'd lose the game. But the deck building comes into play with your movement, and then with being able to purchase items or get out of the dungeon when you need to, when the dragon's hot on your heels and you've got to get out of there to stay alive. And that is Clank. I got to speed up. So number 39 is a game called Dice Forge. Now in this game, this is kind of an engine builder, but the engine is your actual die. So you're popping off the die faces and popping new die faces on throughout the game as you buy them. And then those die that you are slowly building up allow you to purchase cards that are set out. Sorry, that was my elbow popping. That are set out in a section. And you can purchase those cards and add them to sometimes they'll have actions on them, sometimes they won't. Or they'll be like higher point value cards. And then at the end of the game, you total up how many points you have and you see who won. And that is Dice Forge. So my next game number 38, is a worker placement. It's more like a worker swapping game, and that is Raiders of the North Sea. Now, this is the only game that I have played out of this entire line. Like, there's like Raiders of the North Sea, there's also like Architects or Wayfarers. There's a whole line of all of these games, and I've only played Raiders of the North Sea. So you will not see any of those other ones on my list, even though I've heard that they're all fantastic. But in Raiders of the North Sea, like I said, this is a worker swapping game where instead of just placing a worker down, you place the worker down and then you take the worker that's there and add it to your little worker pool. And you'll do that throughout the game. You can either draw from like a village, or you can decide to go on a raid and you can go take workers off of that section of the board and like reap rewards if you're able to be successful on your raid or not. And that is Raiders of the North Sea. So my next game is a game called Mycelia. Now, this is not, I'm talking about the Ravensburger edition. There were two Mycelia games that came out at the exact same time. I want to say one of them was by the lady who did Wingspan, but I might be so off on that. I should probably look that up. Mycelia board game. Nope, I'm super wrong. I'm super wrong. I don't know why I thought it was, what's her name? Elizabeth Hargrave. See, I was like close. Anyway, so this is actually not the game by Elizabeth Hargrave. I don't know why I thought it was. This is by J.J. Neville. And anyway, I haven't played that edition. All that research was for a game that I haven't even played. So I have not played the Splitstone Games edition of that game. Or Burnt Island Games. What's on the box? Splitstone. Yeah, so I have not played that one. I've played the Ravensburger edition, which is I want to say the 2020, nope, it's the 2023 different edition. Mycelia. Okay, so this one was designed by Daniel Greiner and published by Ravensburger. So this is a whole separate game, is what I'm trying to say. That was a long way of saying these are two separate games. You're also going to see another game on my list that's going to make that even more confusing. But for now, those are two separate games. Do I even have that one behind me? No. So Mycelia is it's got like elements of deck building, and it's like a puzzly deck building. You're trying to remove, well, there's a little grid out in front of you, and they have dewdrops on the grid, and you're trying to get those all to this little pool section that allows you to remove the dewdrops from your grid. So the whole entire point of the game is you're trying to be the first person to finish and remove all the dewdrops. The only way to do that is through your deck, and you'll be purchasing new cards through your deck that will allow you to remove certain dewdrops off your board. They go to a collective pool after that, and then you'll swirl the collective pool around. Once it gets filled, a dice will come out, and that will tell you where you have to put in another dewdrop on your board. It's really easy to teach, it's really fun, and it's really cute, which I don't know if you guys noticed, I'm a sucker for really cute games. It's really cute. I love the little dewdrop pieces. The components just make me happy. And that is Mycelia. So my next game is a game that no one will play with me. So if you want to play, request me on BGA, because I don't play this game ever because everyone hates it except me. So this game is Libertalia, and like I said, this is number 36 on my list. So my mom thinks this game is too complicated. My husband was unimpressed, but I enjoy it quite a bit. So in Libertalia, everyone gets the same deck of cards, and you'll use those cards throughout the game. You'll play them down, face down, and then you'll all flip together, and you put them in numerical order, and that numerical order will allow you to play your actual turn in a certain order, or that will order your turn, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then you'll plunder, or you'll be able to, basically you're just seeking glory as a pirate, and I find it really fun. You're trying to, get a ton of money throughout the game, and what's more fun than that? You have this little chest that you get to spin the dial on, and I love this game. Like I said, no one will play it with me, so I have to play it solo all the time, and that is Libertalia. Talia or Talia? Someone, is it tall like tall, or is it tal like, I don't know what else is tal. Anyway, that's Libertalia. So number 35 is another game that I think sits kind of on the more complicated end from what you would expect of it, and that is Maple Valley. Now, Maple Valley often gets the misrepresentation that is, in fact, a kid's game. It is published by Kids Table Board Gaming. I would argue that no one below the age of 11 would be able to play this game. I wouldn't play it with my 11-year-old cousin. I love my 11-year-old cousin. I would not play this game with her because I think it would be far too complicated for her. So I would even argue maybe 12 and up would be able to play this, unless you have an exceptional kid. It is a game where you're moving around the board, you're playing your cards, and your character can move through water or through dirt or grass in different ways. You're moving around this board, but there's a lot of different ways to score. You're trying to gain items for your party that you're going to throw after the game's over. So you'll be gathering stuff to maybe make food and drink. You'll be trying to score, get patches throughout the game. There's also a trading post where you can trade stuff. You're trying to gain friends. There's just a lot going on. It's deceptively simple looking, but it is not super simple in gameplay. It's also not super, super, super heavy. It's just, what I'm trying to say is that it's a little deceptive in how easy it looks, which I just said. But that's basically the gist of what I'm saying. And that is Maple Valley. Number 34 on my list. So I'm going to botch explaining this one too, because this one is probably one of the most complicated ones on my list, and that is Wonderland's War. So I have to admit, I've only played this game twice, but both times we've had a really fun time. Although I will say that this sucker is a table hog, okay? I've got a big table in my house, right? Because we have a lot of members in my family that I've got a lot of kids, I've got my husband, and if we want to entertain people, anyway, we have a big table. I'm talking a 10-person table. And even when we played Wonderland's War, and it's really thick too, and when we played Wonderland's War, it still took up so much of the table that we could not, our little player sheets were hanging off the edge. Anyway, it's a really fun game, but man, I would almost call this a floor game. You just got to play it on the floor because there's not going to be enough room on your table for it. That's beside the point. There's kind of two sections to Wonderland's War. There's one section where you're building your bag, and your bag is your drafting pool that you're going to later use to try to win an area control section. So yeah, there's that like section where you're going around the board and you're drafting cards that allow you to also bag build, and then or like place stuff down. Anyway, and then you'll move on to the second section where they're on the outer reaches of the board, there are regions, and each of those regions you can try to have to dominate. You can try to have dominion over, and you'll compete with other players to try to rule these regions and to put cities down and stuff on them, or castles down on them. It's really fun, very complicated. I can't get much more into it than that because I'm trying to be somewhat quick, and that is Wonderland's War. I can hear my baby woke up, so we're gonna like start, I think, rapid fire. Anyway, if this wasn't rapid fire enough. Game number 33 on my list is a parent game, I would call it, and that is Star Wars Duels. I've talked about it a million times on this channel. Star Wars Duels is like the parent game of this series of Unmatched games, and arguably, hot take, I like Star Wars Duels better. I don't really like Unmatched. I get kind of peeved that I have to pay. Okay, this is like my fundamental little soapbox. My little soapbox, okay, about Star Wars Duels, all right? Star Wars Duels, you pay for the game, and you get like 12 characters you can play, and you can go online and you could order like different characters, or you can print out different cards for different characters to play throughout the game, all for the price of one game. Unmatched, you get 4 characters, and if you want more, you have to buy more games. Oh, it irks me so bad. When the original game came out with 12 characters, and then you split it up and charge the same amount, and you only get 4, that kind of peeves me off. Anyway, so that's my little annoyance. Yeah, so that's the game, or that's kind of my little soapbox about Star Wars Duels. But with that, Star Wars Duels is a battling game where you have a deck of cards in front of you. You'll draft like 4 or 5 of them. You play them, you attack, discard, do the same thing. It kind of has a deck building feel without actually being a deck builder. And you're just attacking your opponent across the board. And it's super fun. My favorite is Palpatine, because I can just stand behind my guys and tuck myself into a corner and just just get other people with my little like choke thing or whatever, and just never get attacked. And everyone else just has to suffer. No one wants to play with me because I'm just annoying. But that is Star Wars Duels. So my next game is a game called Unicorn Fever, and this is number 32 on my list. Now, Unicorn Fever is a quirky, probably stupid little racing game. I am addicted to it in like the dumbest way possible. Everyone hates this game. Not everyone. I think it's like chaotic fun. So in Unicorn Fever, you're betting on unicorns as they race. And there's like these cards that you'll flip that'll show how far they're going or how fast they're going. There's a section where you bet, and then there's the section where they race, right? And the betting, you can also like try to rig the race with mafia members, and the mafia are like fairy mafia, or they're like gnomes, or they're witches, or they're leprechauns, like, and there's different types of mafia that you're buying cards for, and you're trying to rig the stupid game, but ultimately it doesn't matter. Like the whole entire game, you just have to know it doesn't matter. Like you might lose. There's no control. You have like no control over the whole game. There's no strategy. It's all just some stupid fun game. But I love it. It is so chaotic, so fun, so dumb, so entertaining, and that is Unicorn Fever. So my next game is a game called Santa Monica. Now, I have to admit, this game probably is not as actually good as like some other games that I have lower down on the list, but it was one of the first games that my husband and I ever purchased for our own collection, so I'm really sentimentally attached to it, even though I know that there are probably games that I own that are better. I just can't bring myself to like put it anywhere else on my list. It is a card drafting game where you will be picking up cards and laying them down either on a street or on your beach, and then trying to attract tourists and use those to maximize your tableau, basically. And the baby's crying, so we made it to 31. I'm going to see if I can keep going. Anyway, I love the art in this game. It's so chill. It's a lullaby game. It's so like fun in a very quiet way, and that is Santa Monica. Now pause, I gotta go give the baby his bottle, and then I will be right back. Alright, he has his bottle, so we'll see how much more of this I can do. Alright, so my next game on my list is game number 30, and this is a game that we learned more recently, and I have really enjoyed it, and that is the game Brew. Now, Brew is this quirky little dice game where it's like dice, and there's like area control, And so when you'll roll your die, and some of them will have spirit faces on them, and some of them will have these other faces on them, and they're used for two separate things. You'll place your die out onto some cards for an area control section, or you can place them out onto like a communal board that allows you to take other actions. I'm probably making it sound really boring. And then you'll be able to like craft potions or add animals to your little reserve out down below you, and it's so cute and so fun. And it's almost like Wondrous Creatures, but like an easier version. And I really enjoy it. And that is Brew. I'm on my timer. He's crying. I'll be back. All right, everyone. My husband came home for lunch, so I'll be back in a little bit. But, yeah. Hang tight. I gotta remember I was on harmonies. There you go. That's what you wanted. All right. I'm back. Maybe. I'm going to try. We're going to try to get through this, you guys. Okay. All right. So my last one that I ended on was the game number 29, and that game is Harmonies. Now, I said it before in a previous video that I've made. I did a review of the board game Reef, and I hated Reef, if anyone remembers, right? But I played Harmonies, and Harmonies kind of has a similar dynamic. In Reef, it's like a grid that you're trying to place tiles on to build like certain structures to achieve objective cards. In Harmonies, you get personal objective cards, and then there's also kind of a hexagon grid, and you're drafting these pieces to put on your board to try to achieve those cards. It's very similar mechanically. Where they differ and where it takes me from hating it to loving it is Harmonies objectives are specific to you. And so you can draft cards and you can keep fulfilling that objective over and over and over again throughout the game. As opposed to Reef, when you play it, the objectives are there on the board and you're trying to get the objective to take the card, and other players can take it before you, and so the objectives are shifting. That was a lot of The objectives shift over and over and over again throughout the game, and it's so obnoxious in Brief, but it plays so much better in Harmonies. Harmonies just does a way better job at it, enough to take it all the way up to number 29 on my list, and its art is gorgeous, and that is Harmonies. All right, number 28 is a game that I have talked about quite a bit, and this is one that you'll hear a lot from other creators as well. It's a very popular game, and that is Dice Throne. Dice Throne is a dice Yahtzee battling style game where you have a player across from you, and then you're playing, and you're rolling these dice and using certain combinations to unlock actions that will attack the player across from you or maybe heal you. It's a super fun game. It's fairly easy to teach people. Maybe not like super easy. It depends on how into games they are, but it's still really, really fun, and we've enjoyed it with everyone we played it with, and that is Dice Throne. All right, so my next game number 27, is Res Arcana. So Res Arcana, a lot of people are going to say it's criminal that it's lower on my list, but Res Arcana, it's not my favorite game. It's kind of got like, you have a set deck that you're given in the beginning, and you're trying to maximize your deck to get the most points. And it's really interesting because in some deck building games, like you have this, or even engine building, you have like the shifting ability to draft new things and add them in. But you're really limited in Res Arcana to the deck that you've already had pre-sorted for you. And it's very fascinating to see the different way people's minds work as they're trying to come up with that combination that's going to get them to the winning spot. And I really enjoy this game. Really fun resource management. It's a fun game, and that is Res Arcana. All right, so my next game is game number 26, and this one has fallen on my personal list. It wasn't actually on my top 10 list originally, but it was in my personal. Anyway, and this game is Everdell. Now, Everdell is a worker placement game, and it is a classic for me. I love it. It's one that we, again, have had since the beginning of our collection, and I've really enjoyed playing it over and over and over again. I actually own the big box now. I need Far Shore, though. That's the only one that I don't have so far, and I didn't get to back the dual campaign, or I think there was another one, but eventually. Anyway, so Everdell, like I said, worker placement game where you are, and it's like a tableau building game. Engine building? it's primarily worker placement. You're placing your guy, you're getting your resources, you're trying to buy cards. You can have a maximum of 15 cards, and ultimately you're trying to score the most points. Points are listed on the cards. There are various ways to score, and that is Everdell. So my next game number 25, is one that was on my top 10 list last year, and it has fallen quite a bit. I can't remember where it was last year, but I've just had other games that I played this year that I enjoyed more than that. It's not that I don't enjoy this game still, and that is Flamecraft. Now, in Flamecraft, you're playing as dragons. You're going around to all these different shops to collect resources and to fire other dragons and to add more shops out to the collective, like, pool that you can all go to, and you're trying to earn the most reputation points. So you're trying to be the best dragon. You're just the best, and I love it. I think it's so fun. It's competitive, but also like lullaby game, because it's not sneaky necessarily. You can't, I guess, take the same place as another player, but it's still really fun. Oh, it's okay. I love the deluxe components too. If you can get those, like the dragon medal coins are fantastic. I have like all the deluxe components because I'm obsessed with them. I got like the chunky resources and the new dragons and like all this stuff. I love Everdell. I love Flamecraft. Not as Flamecraft. Anyway, my next game number 24, is another one that is really old for us, but really enjoyable always, and that is Terraforming Mars. Now, in Terraforming Mars, you are drafting cards, playing cards down to try to score the most points. There's like a board that you are adding tiles onto and then putting your cubes on, where you're building like greenery around the water spaces, and you're trying to basically develop Mars. It's so fun. I've heard that a lot of people love the Ares Expedition version of this game. I have not played the Ares Expedition. In fact, I've heard from most people that the Ares Expedition replaces the base game for them. I haven't played it. I really enjoy Terraforming Mars as is, so I don't really feel the need to get the expansion or edition. And that is Terraforming Mars. So my next game number 23. This is one of my favorites. This is like where I get really excited in my list. Anything like after probably Brew? No, anything after like Unicorn Fever, I'm like super pumped about. Anyway, so this one I've been playing a lot on BGA. And I love this game. It has fallen. It was previously in my top 10, and it's been moved down, but it doesn't, I still love it so much, and that is Guild of Merchant Explorers. Now, in Guild of Merchant Explorers, it's a Euro-style game where there are cards that are flipped that tell you where you can go on your own personal board. There's not hardly any player interaction. It's mostly just like you're doing your own thing, they're doing their own thing, and then you compare how well you did at the end of the game. You're given the exact same cards with the exception of the Arrow 1, 2, and 3 cards. Those are all personally drafted separately. But you're going to go around this map placing cubes and trying to explore areas and build cities and find discovery towers, and it's so fun. It's great solo. And they have it on BGA now, and I'm so glad, because my husband doesn't really like games where you don't have direct player interaction, so I can play it a lot on BGA, and that is Guild of Merchant Explorers. All right, so number 22 on my list, I actually am guilty of having not played in a long time, but it is a game. Let me hurry and pull up So it's a game, basically, it's called Bargain Quest, and it's a game where you are, instead of being the heroes, you're the merchant selling. Excuse me. You're the merchant selling to the heroes. So instead, you're in a town, and the town is being plagued by monsters, and these heroes keep coming in to go fight the monsters, and sometimes they don't make it back, but they need to be equipped before they go and fight the monsters, and that's your job. That's where you come in, and you can try to upgrade your shop. You can try to upgrade, like, the amount of items that you can have in it, or maybe, like, have an assistant that comes in and works with you, and to help it more manageable, and these heroes give you money to buy the most desirable item from you. And it's a really cute little, it's kind of a capitalism game. It's really, really fun, and that is Bargain Quest. All right, my next game, number 21, is another new to me this year game, and that is Moonrakers. So Moonrakers there's a lot of deck builders this year, man. I feel like I've had so many that we've played. Moonrakers is kind of a deck building game. It's also really, though, primarily a negotiation game. So your deck building, you have like characters that you can build into your deck. You also have your ship that you can upgrade. I'm trying not to like tap the table too hard because I was doing this a lot last time, and I don't know if you guys noticed, it's really loud on the speaker. Anyway, so Moonrakers is you're like using your deck and you're using your ship to try to fulfill contracts that are out on the board. And these contracts, there are going to be times when you use your deck and you just do not have enough stuff to fulfill the contracts, nor will you ever. Single-handedly, you never will. So you're going to have to negotiate with other players to try to fulfill the stuff on the card, like the requirements on the card, so that you can collect the card, and then you have to split the profit. You're trying to earn the most what's the word? There are points. You're trying to earn the most points. You're trying to be better than everyone else, which is, how games always go. But yeah, you're trying to just earn the most points, be the fastest to earn those points, and prestige points. Prestige. Anyway, you're trying to earn the most prestige, and that is Moonrakers. All right, so my next game number 20, is another new to me game of this year. This one we love, and we played it with so many friends, and that is Thunder Road Vendetta. Now, Thunder Road Vendetta is a chaotic racing game. Not quite in the same way that, like, Unicorn Fever is chaotic. Unicorn Fever is chaotic in the way that, like, it doesn't matter what you do. Whether you win or lose, it's just kind of up in the air. You might end up in tons of debt, whatever. Thunder Road Vendetta is more chaotic in that you have 3 cars that you're racing to get to the end, but like you're getting blown off the road, or you're going into like ruts, or you're getting crushed by another car, or there are things that will knock your cars off. There's a lot of stuff in the game that makes it more chaotic, but it's so fun. You're like rolling dice, and you're using those dice on your personal board to try to move your cars, and then also try to attack your other players and bump their cars off the road. It's so fun, and that is Thunder Road Vendetta. Now, number 19, this is a personal favorite of my mom's. So not mine, my mom loves this game. And this game is Sonora. So the game Sonora is a little dexterity / I've called it crunchy before. It's not really like crunchy as much as it's a really thinky game. So you have this little board out in front of you, and you're flicking these little dice you're flicking these little discs onto the board, and there's 4 sections that they could land in. And then if they land in that section, each of the little discs has a numerical value on it, and that numerical value will apply to what you can do on your personal board for that section. So there will be 4 matching sections on your board. One of them looks like a Tetris section, where if you like flick a 4 and it makes it into that section, you have to draw a specific kind of shape. And then if you get enough of those shapes, you get to score a certain amount of points. There's another section where it's just you're trying to have the majority fastest in the hexagons. There's a river section where you're trying to get to the bottom of the river to get the higher amount of points. And then there's another section where you're trying to build like a spider web and enclose a bunch of these extra little piece or symbols to get points there. It is kind of crunchy in that there's a lot of math to do at the end of the game. A lot of scoring. You're going to make me sound like I'm farting. Yeah, you're going to make me sound like I'm passing gas, but I'm not. But it's a really, really fun game, and that is Sonora. All right, number 18 is a game that I actually haven't played in a long time. I wish that we had played it more this year, but we just haven't gotten around to it. But I still love it, and that is Brian Boru. In Brian Boru, it's got like an area control thing where you're trying to win certain regions by having the most influence. There's also raiders that can come in and attack you. And then there's this, I'm not really like a trick-taking game person, but I love the trick-taking in this game because there's a reason for it. You're trick-taking to try to allow you to take certain actions. If you win or lose the trick, your actions that you can take depend on your standing at the end of the round. And then you'll take those actions. You can like add churches, I think that's what it's called. You can add churches to add influence in an area so that you can win it in the long run. And it's so fun. It's kind of hard to teach, but we have loved it so much. It is 3 players and up, so you really have to find people who enjoy the game if you're playing with more than like a spouse or significant other, or if you're playing alone, you need to have more people to play it, and that's kind of a bummer for me a little bit. It makes it harder to table it for us because we play primarily at 2-player, but it's so fun, and that is Brian Brew. All right, game number 17 is one that I Kickstart backed. They actually sent me a prototype copy originally, and the Kickstarter has not come out yet. I reviewed this. This was one of my first board game bites. I still love this game. It's very small production, and that is not Brian Brew. And that is Beyond the Event Horizon. So Beyond the Event Horizon is a 4X exploratory game where you are going around the universe flipping tiles as you explore the regions. You're trying to like conquer these planets. And then in addition, there's also these pirates that move kind of like AI around the board that could potentially attack you, but you can also attack someone else. It's so fun. I love it. I can't wait until the Kickstarter fulfills because it's been probably one of my most anticipated games. I know it was really small, but it was so fun. And that is Beyond the Event Horizon. Now, number 16. You are so loud. Yeah. Number 16 on my list is another one that I sent this year, and that is Flock Together by Sea Cow Games. I know because they sent me a t-shirt, and I love it. Anyway, so Flock Together is this super fun co-op game. And listen, like, I am not really a big co-op game person. I know I've kind of suggested a few in here, but I'm really not big into co-op games. However, Flock Together is probably my biggest exception for it because the way that you do the co-op, it's so fun. Like, it's just so fun, and it makes sense because you're both attacking. So you're basically playing as chickens, and there's like this main coop, and you're going out, and you're trying to attack these bad guys to try to knock them off the board, and then you get rewards for attacking them. And you might have to work together to attack a bad guy, or he might get bigger and worse, and you can upgrade your own chicken the whole entire game, and they go from being these cute little chickens to like these big, funny, cute little chickens. And the cute little chicks, not chickens. Anyway, they're so cute, and they're so fun, and it features Andrew Bosley artwork, which I'm impartial to, and I thoroughly enjoyed this game, and that was Flock Together. All right, my next game is probably one of the meanest games I own, and mean in, like, my family plays it super mean. Not everyone's going to think that, but we play it so mean, and that is Bunny Kingdom. So number 15 is Bunny Kingdom, and it is a vicious little game. I've ranted about it before on the channel, so I won't get into it a ton now, but there's like grid out in front of you. You're playing cards down in a Sushi Go style where you get to place 2, pass the rest of your hand, pick up another hand, play 2, pass the rest of your hand, pick up another hand. And as you lay the cards down, you'll get to put bunnies on the grid, and you're trying to grow your fief, and or maybe a couple fiefs, and you're trying to score, and you get to multiply the amount of castles in your fief by the amount of resources, individual resources, not like you could be on like 3 logs, but those only count as 1 log because it's one type of resource. So you're multiplying your castles by the type of resource that you have in your fief to score the most points, and then there are extra parchment cards that you can score at the end of the game. It's so fun. You'll play it over like 3 or 4 rounds, and we almost borderline can't play it anymore because we all get so into it and we get really riled up. And the last time we played, my mom definitely swept the board, and she's not prone to doing that. So anyway, that's Bunny Kingdom. Super fun game. Number 14 on my list is one that I was sent by Bezier Games, and that is Castles of Mad King Ludwig. Now, this is not going to be for everyone. This is one that I love, though. It's another tile drafting and placement game. You're building out your castle, and your castle will have scoring conditions on each of its pieces. There's like the red ones always have negative points if they're touching certain rooms. The yellow ones, I think allow you to take another turn. The orange ones allow you to like draft crafting cards, which allow you to do like various types of scoring at the end of the game. I have the deluxe edition of this game. I did purchase that, actually. They did not send it to me. I like to be able to support people where I can, and I really wanted the deluxe edition. And I love it. There are so many colors of swans that you can play if you get the deluxe edition, and I have an addiction to that. You could get sparkly ones and like mica powdered ones. which probably no one understands. I only know what mica powder is because I've been working on stuff. So like swirly looking ones, or like regular colors, neon ones. I love the other tiles. I also have like the box that makes it so you can play like the giant version of the game, which is so fun. You should play it on the floor. Definitely a floor game if you play the big version, but it's so fun. It's definitely more lullaby. It's not like as mean, but you're also setting out certain tiles that other people. So okay, how do I say this? So you as the first player get to set the market prices for all the rooms. So people will have to buy rooms to add to their castle, and you'll be in charge of how much those cost at the beginning of your game if you're a first player. And then everyone else pays you, and then it switches, and the next person is first player, and then they get to set the prices for the market, and then you get to buy from them and add those rooms. And so there's kind of this circulatory money thing going on where you get money from selling, from pricing things certain ways. You can also strategically price things because if you're first player, you get to buy last. So you get to strategically put things in locations that maybe you don't want to incentivize the other person to buy it, but you want to buy it, and you're hoping that it doesn't sell fast. And anyway, it's, to me, really, really fun, and that is Castle's Mad King Ludwig. All right, number 13 on my game is a game that I don't hear enough about, and that is Empires of the North. Now, Empires of the North is an engine building game, which basically means that you have cards out in front of you that trigger each other and give you like a big old combo-tastic turn. So you'll draft these cards from your hand, and each person is going to play a clan, and these clans are going to be totally unique to to whoever's playing. There's an Eskimo clan, there's like 2 Viking clan. Well, there's 2 of each type of clan. There's Eskimos, Vikings. I have all the expansions too, so I'm trying to remember what's included and what's not. But there's like Egyptians, Romans, barbarians. There's a lot of different types of factions that you can play, and they're going to play differently, and you're basically trying to build out your little civilization, kind of. You're just playing a lot of cards, and then you're going on these big old explorations across the sea to gain other stuff. It's so fun. Very underrated game. I love this one so much, and that is Empires of the North. If they ever get it on BGA, I'm going to be on there all the time. All right, game number 12 on my list. We have 2 left. We've made it through almost everything, and hopefully you can hear me over my baby. So, number 12 on my list has actually fallen off of my top 10, but I still love it. And that is Honey Buzz. So Honey Buzz is this little worker placement game where you're placing bees out on the board, and the bees are so cute. And you're taking these tiles and you're adding them to... Hey! So in Honey Buzz, you're taking these tiles, you're adding them out to your own little beehive, essentially, and they have certain actions that you can take based off of the tiles. So once you've completed a little hexagon section, made it so that there's an empty spot in the middle, you can add a nectar token. If you get your bee over to the nectar spot, you can draft that token and you can put it on your board, and then that will activate certain... I'm not saying this right. You don't have to have the nectar to activate the spaces. Regardless, you can put a nectar space in the middle of that will you can add nectar to later and then sell at the market or use to make others or use to fulfill orders. It's a super cute game. You can also like gain more worker bees throughout the game. You can sell stuff. You can try to add more fan, which is like adding more nectar to all of your nectar spaces. Yeah, there's a lot to it. There's little fulfillment cards that you have to make, and it's a super cute, super fun game. I've talked about it more in my top 10 video from last year, so if you want to take a look at that, that might help a little bit, and that is Honey Buzz. All right, game number 11 is a brand new game, and I did Kickstart back this, and I finally got it with my deluxe edition. He's very slobbery, so you have to bear with me, and he's got a big old bald spot. But this game is called Wondrous Creatures. Now in Wondrous Creatures, this is like a worker placement movement style game where you're placing your worker out to gain resources. You'll use those resources to buy cards that add characters into your reserve. And your reserve, like these cards are so beautiful and they're all unique, and I love that element of it. And you can also like have eggs that you hatch. And you'll flip the eggs over once they've hatched, and you can use those to take other actions. It's such a cute game. The cover of this game is like one of my all-time favorite covers of any board games. It looks like a book, and then all the expansions, even though I've gotten them to fit in the big box, I've still been keeping their boxes separately because they're just so cute. I love them displayed on my shelf. and that is Wondrous Creatures. All right, so that is all I'm going to do today. I'm going to save my top 10 for another video. Yeah, just because I don't think I'm going to be able to get through it today. So hopefully I can make that video again soon, barring extraneous circumstances. But I have had so much fun making this video for you. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. And I can't wait to see you again here in the After Evenfall community.